you've got to vote for the person that you know you can count on, that you know you can trust. You can't trust Ted Cruz. He's going to say whatever he has to say to serve his own political purpose.
All right, y'all. So we got another Liz Cheney endorsement. Super interesting. You probably saw this a couple of weeks ago. It totally rocked the political world. Liz Cheney decided to come out against Donald Trump. That one wasn't that big of a surprise, but actually went even further and decided to endorse Kamala Harris publicly, as well as her dad, Dick Cheney. So that made a lot of news, and now she's made another endorsement. And I found this one really interesting, just considering who it is and where it is. So before I get into it, if you haven't already, just go ahead and like the video. It helps it get out to more people, helps them grow the channel. And then if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 500 before the election. Okay, let's get into it. So if you didn't see this already, Liz Cheney publicly endorsed Kamala Harris.
Do you want to make news? Would you like to announce who you're endorsing in 2024?
As someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this, and because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris in this election.
Like I said, big news. Nobody's necessarily surprised. Everybody knows that Liz Cheney kind of despises Donald Trump, and he despises her. But most of the time, what people do is if they don't like the person, they just stay silent and they let their silence do the talking. She's gone so far as to come out and endorse Kamala Harris, but now she's going even a step further, and she's endorsing another candidate. So if you're not familiar with the race in Texas, Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, who everybody just loathes. I mean, I don't even think Texans like Ted Cruz. They just pick him because he's the Republican. But Ted Cruz, the guy who, with the nasally voice, and he famously decided to go to Mexico while the Texas freeze was happening, and all of his constituents were freezing to death in their apartments and dying. That Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, who famously sided with the election deniers. He also voted to not certify the election when Trump lost. That Ted Cruz. Liz Cheney has come out now and endorsed his opponent, Colin Allred. I would love nothing more than to see Ted Cruz lose, just to see Ted Cruz lose. But that would be a major, major, major win for the Democrats if they got a Democratic senator from Texas. Yeah, so we're going to take a look here at Liz Cheney endorsing Colin Allred and speaking out against Ted Cruz. Like I said, it's a really big thing. And then I'll get to what's happening specifically in Texas.
I know that a friendship kind of bloomed out of January 6th and some things you experienced together. But Congresswoman Cheney, I have to believe you are closer in policy to Ted Cruz than you are to the congressman here. So why are you campaigning against Ted Cruz?
I feel that this race is such an important one. I have not endorsed in any other Senate race this time around, but I served with Colin. I know him. I know what kind of a congressman he's been. I watched him. As you said, we were on opposite sides of issues and opposite sides of the aisle. Not every issue on opposite sides, but I also know Ted Cruz. I've known him for over 20 years, and I know that he will say anything if it serves his own political purpose. And the nation is at a moment where we need public servants who are men and women of goodwill, who are men and women who will do the right thing. We need serious people in office, and the choice for the people of Texas is just a very clear one. I think it's really important that we have serious people in office, and so when there's a candidate who is as competent and somebody the kind of character as Colin, I think it's very important that we support them.
Some Republicans might say you are abandoning conservative values by endorsing Congressman Colin Allred and Vice President Kamala Harris. What would you say to them?
When I watch the kinds of things that we saw Ted Cruz do after the 2020 election in particular, his willingness to do whatever Donald Trump wanted him to do, including proposing this completely unconstitutional plan that would have resulted in throwing out electoral votes, throwing out the votes of millions of Americans, something that, as I said, was unconstitutional. And Ted Cruz was one of the leaders of that in the Senate. It's just dangerous. These jobs really matter. And in this race, I want to do everything I can to help ensure that the people of Texas elect Colin Allred.
So there she is, saying, we don't agree on everything, but at least I know I can work with him. And Ted Cruz is just a smarmy, slimy, scummy piece of shit. And he's got a little nasally voice that really pisses everybody off too, but that's beside the point. He is one of those people that makes people despise politicians because of the fact that he complains how nothing in Washington works, and then he does everything in his power to make sure that Washington doesn't work. He's one of those people that complains the whole time that it's broken, and anytime there's a chance to do something to fix things, he votes against the thing that would fix it. Also, if you're not aware, Ted Cruz has spent more time doing his stupid little podcast than he has campaigning the last couple of months. And so he's kind of behind. So if we look at the most recent poll, and like I said, this is huge news because it's Texas, Colin Allred and Ted Cruz are basically dead tied. So that is massive, massive news. And Colin Allred, I haven't done too much research on him. I don't know a huge amount about his politics, but I know that I would vote for a friggin' corpse over Ted Cruz if I was in the state of Texas. Because, like I said, he's a Weasley piece of shit, and he does nothing. He got elected to Senate back in 2013, and he's famously done everything he can to block anything good from happening. He filibustered to make sure that they couldn't do something with the ACA. I'll cut to a clip of it here in a second.
And I love this story, and so I'm going to read it to you. Sam I am. That Sam I am, that Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham?
Just a piece of garbage. The worst, or one of the worst senators. If I had to pick my top 5, Ted Cruz is definitely up there. Mitch McConnell's definitely up there. Just piece of garbage. So what this would mean for Texas, because they keep saying that Texas might be in play for Democrats, and every time I'm just no way. But if you look at the population of Texas and how much it's growing in the last couple of years, especially since COVID, the Texans, including Ted Cruz, will sit there and complain and bitch and piss and moan about how all of these people from California and all these liberal states are moving to Texas and they're screwing up what they think is their politics there. And it's true, a lot of people have moved from California to Texas because the property taxes are much, much lower. It's friendlier for business. So Tesla is now headquartered in Texas. A bunch of other companies have moved to Texas. So the population there is growing and has been growing very rapidly. And so there might be something to this whole Texas might be in play. I never thought I'd say that in my life, but I don't know. And if Colin Allred beats Ted Cruz, that would be a lightning rod. That would be massive, massive news to hit. Like I said, I just think it's crazy. Liz Cheney is going on a tear. She's dumping Trump. She's moved over to endorse Kamala. And also, just for all of the Republicans or all of the conservatives that might see this and think, oh yeah, no, she's a rhino, fuck her, right? Liz Cheney has voted with Donald Trump in terms of her voting record over 90% of the time, okay? She is deeply conservative. She agrees with him on pretty much all the policy. I think the thing that Liz Cheney really hated was that Trump did January 6th, and that was a bridge too far for her. And also, they just don't like that Trump has taken over the party. They've taken out all the respectability and whatnot. She doesn't like that Trump tried to steal the election, which is so fucking rich too, because like your dad is Dick Cheney, right? Not to mention Dick Cheney is like a war criminal, but Dick Cheney and George W. Bush actually stole the I almost said 2020. They actually stole the election in 2000. At the time, Jeb Bush, who was George W. Bush's brother, was the governor of Florida. He sided with Bush. It went to the Supreme Court. And basically, Bush and Cheney stole the election through the Supreme Court, through judicial fiat. So like I said, it's super rich. It's just rich to see Liz Cheney, you know, go out and just hate on Donald Trump, even though, like I said, they agree on policy like 90% of the time. So I think it's weird too that Kamala is going out there like saying, I have the endorsement of over 200 Republicans. Like, I don't know that I would necessarily be bragging about that. I would just state it as like, hey, there are a whole bunch of Republicans who are so disgusted with Donald Trump that they're coming over to our side. If that lets you know anything about Donald Trump, I wouldn't be like parading around Dick and Liz Cheney. It's like, oh man, this is a great endorsement. Like, Dick Cheney is a war criminal, you know, and Liz Cheney is an awful person as well. Like, happy to have her come out against Donald Trump. Happy to have her come out against Ted Cruz. Her policy still sucks. She's still an awful person. But her big thing, what she's saying, is that, like, for whatever she doesn't agree with Democrats, at the very least, somebody like Colin Allred is someone who would come to the table and engage and try and negotiate in good faith, as opposed to people like Ted Cruz, who is literally just playing politics. And I guess that part is actually nice. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Liz Cheney endorsing Colin Allred. It's kind of wild. And if you, like I said, if you made it this far and you haven't yet, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.